And I'm on. This is Dr. Bill, your radio MD, coming at you live from AM 860 The Answer. We're also streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, drbillradiomd.com, and I think a couple other platforms. And I think Joe got us on Spotify, but I don't know, Ken. Are you there this morning? Oh, thank God. I thought I was going to have to be here all alone on a New Year's Day. Oh, by the way, Happy New Year to you and to everyone out there. Yeah, 2023, and congratulations to Georgia for winning against Ohio and TCU upset Michigan. Wow, good. That was a surprise. Good going, guys. Yeah. So it's going to be Georgia and TCU next week, huh? Looks like it, unless we. Yeah, I think Georgia's going to win it, but TCU will give them a run for their money, at least for three quarters. Oh yeah, yeah. You know, the SEC has just dominated the college football scene for so long. It's time to get a little new blood in there, don't you think? And we don't know anything about sports, but we're having fun chatting about it. Yeah, yeah. Somebody get the odds makers on the line here. My Christmas was it was good. I have no complaints. We went over to eat with Ken and Barbie, our old neighbors, and we had a wonderful dinner. And their son and daughter-in-law with two little kids were there, and it was nice to have little kids running around the house. You know, it's not Christmas without kids. That's really I mean, it's about throwing a shout out to Jesus, but it's also about little kids, being happy and running around and having fun. And it's a good time of year because everybody is supposed to be peaceful and loving and giving, and the whole world celebrates it. It surprises me. Everywhere I go, there, even the Muslim world celebrates. A lot of the Muslim world celebrates Christmas. Go figure. Yeah, yeah. That. Well, yeah, or somebody else's kids. I mean, get rid of yours, use somebody else's. You can send them home. Yes, that is. Get them out. So I'm in the office the end of the week here, and we were going to take off, and we did take off, and we came over to Cocoa Beach, and we're over here for the weekend. So Thursday, before we left, Thursday morning, we had a half day at the office because we have to make sure we take care of our Canadians as well as our American patients. And so we had this little old lady, 93 years old, come in, and she said, "I think I've had a stroke." I said, "Really? When?" She said, "Last week." I'm like, "Well, why didn't you come in earlier?" And she couldn't lift her left foot up, and she had some kind of a like a lightning bolt headache, and so I'm guessing she had a little bleed in her brain. And she said, "Well, my kids paid for me to come down here for a vacation, and I only have so much money, and I didn't want to ask them for any more money, and I knew the workup would cost a lot of money." So she says, "I she says I've got $1,000." I'm trying to think, how can we get this done for 1,000? But we figured it out. Now I don't know if we're going to get everything done, but and I don't know. Oh yeah, but isn't it funny how as we get older, we worry more and more about money? And I see that with a lot of older people. My next door neighbor, I mean, she's got a couple million in the bank, and she'll go from Winn Dixie to Publix to Walmart to see which one has a can of cat food that's 10 cents or 20 cents cheaper. I'm like, oh, I know. I, well, she grew, and Myung Ju's the same way. She grew up poor, so she counts every little penny and nickel and dime, and she's always yelling at me for spending too much. And you could have gotten that cheaper, and on and on. And I'm like, you know what? Time is money, and if you want me to work, then you got to let me do things as expediently as I possibly can. I mean, that's just part of life. No, nothing wrong with that. But I mean, yeah, you don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Yeah, and so, you know oh, really? Oh, that doesn't hurt. I mean, that hurts my feelings. Well, they oh, yeah. Well, that's because the companies haven't wanted to put money into refineries with the policies of our current regime. I mean, it's just stupid. Why would they wanna do that when they're being told not to sell gas and oil? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and then the administration says, "Well, it's not our fault, it's that the companies like BP and Shell and all those, they don't wanna build any new refineries or update the old ones." And they're like, "Well, dude, if you if we can't make any money, how are we gonna build them?" Yeah, I mean, they have responsibility to the stockholders as well as to their employees. So it's no, they cannot. Nope. That's not in our Constitution. Hopefully, it'll never be. So, at any rate, speaking of California, we're down at the little beach hut getting a beer the other day, 2 days ago, and, looking at the Atlantic Ocean. You probably didn't know this, but the Atlantic Ocean is on the eastern side of Florida. We live on the West Coast, so we just think that the whole ocean is the Gulf of Mexico. We don't know. We're and yeah, we're very provincial. So at any rate, I meet this guy from California. He's there with his wife, and the mother-in-law is paying to take them on a cruise. So we get to talking. I said, "Oh, California! Oh my God, you must be a left-wing loony, and we're gonna have to shoot you." So of course we got into it, and he said, "If it wasn't for California, the country would sink. We pay 52% of the federal income tax." Well, no, you don't. I looked it up. No, no, I looked it up. It's like 13% that California pays, and per capita. Now, is 2017. They paid about $1,000 more per person than Florida did, but that's reversed in 2019, 2020 because we have so many more affluent people moving into Florida and so many more businesses, and a lot of businesses are leaving California. And you say, well, where does the majority of our tax money come from? Doesn't it come from imports and excise taxes and taxes on corporations? No, 51% comes from personal income tax. And of course, the Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid that comes out of our taxes, our earnings too. So that's personal, and the smaller proportion is import duties and excise taxes and corporate taxes. But really, it's not a big amount. The overwhelming majority of the money comes from you and me, the taxpayers. And so I'm thinking 52%. He said, if we seceded from the Union, you wouldn't know what to do. I'm like, dude, we'd, we'd go down there and we'd dig a trench all the way around you, push you out into the ocean. No, yeah, we could get rid of some excess nuclear devices that way. But you know what? It's such a beautiful state, and there's so many resources there. It's just a drop dead gorgeous state. If you drive all the way from San Diego up to the Oregon border, you're going to see scenery like you will not see almost anywhere else on earth. Really gorgeous. Yeah, just yeah, we did that too. That was before the bums were all over the place. So now I guess you'd have to run over a couple of them to get up to the castle. Oh, do they? Used to be able to drive up there. Those days are over. So oh, yeah, Big Sur, that's right where it is. So if you're out in California ever and you wanna see what's that called? San Simeon, I think it is? No, San Clemente was, Nixon's. Yeah, San Simeon, and that was built by the Hearst family, and, of course, Arnold married into the family, as you know. He married, um, into the Shriver family, which married into the Hearst family, and so they got connections there, and we were there a week after Arnold and his wife were there, Maria, and so we didn't get to swim in the pool though, but they did. But you can rent it out if you want. I mean, you can rent the place for an event because yeah, yeah, because it was too much to keep up for the Hearst family, so that I think they gave it to the state. Now the state keeps it up, so they got to make some cash off of that puppy. So yeah, they charge admission now, and the bus ride. I think that's $100,000 to get up there, but it is. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. And when you get up in the San Francisco area, and then you can go over to Yosemite, and what a unique park that is. And but enough of California. And by the way, this guy said DeSantis was a criminal and should be locked up. And I said, "Honey, go get my squirrel gun." And he turned to his mother-in-law and said, "See, I told you these Floridians are all like this." No, well, we are. I was talking to one of the guys that worked downstairs, an older black guy, and he and I were talking, and we're the same age and same era, same experiences, and so we swapped stories and talked a little bit about Muhammad Ali because he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Louisville." He said, "Oh, Muhammad Ali." I said, "Yeah, I knew Muhammad. I told you that, didn't I?" And yeah, and well, just to remind everybody, his mother worked down the street from our house, and so he would come out with his brother Lucius Cassius and Lucius Clay, and they'd pick up their mom, and he'd also say hi to us. And when he won the Golden Gloves, he brought those out, and his mom wore them around her neck. And then when he won his Olympic medal, he brought it out, and he was down at David Van Humbert's, and so we were all down there. And oh, Cassius, let us see. And he was showing us. And I said, "Cassius, can we show mom and dad?" And he said, "Sure, Billy." And he put it around my neck, and I'm running around the neighborhood with his Olympic gold medal. Well, he was a really nice guy. I mean, you would not, if his public persona and his private were very different. He was really a nice guy. He was a great showman, and oh, he did, and he was just a really sweetheart. He was real gentle with us little kids. We were like looking up at this giant, because we were 10, 11 years old, so we thought he was Superman. Any rate, so this guy and I are talking, this elderly black guy in the parking lot, and he said, "Well, Louisville turned its back on Muhammad Ali when he said he wouldn't fight in the Vietnam War." And I said, "No, not the whole city. Come on, that's not true. I mean, I think that people were kind of amazed that he would take that stand, being a boxer." And then he said he couldn't do it because he was a Muslim and that was the religion of peace. I said, "Dude, you better read the Quran. It's the only religion I know that sanctions warfare and says it's okay. You can fight in the name of Allah." And there's even, did you know that in the Quran, and I've read the Quran, there are rules of engagement. Did you know that? There are rules of engagement, just like we have for our military when they go into the field. So when you put your hands up, they're supposed to stop throwing bows and arrows or spears or whatever at you and take you in as a prisoner of war. And then you get the, yeah, yeah, but that was what, 1,700 years ago. And by the way, you have a choice. It's a very democratic religion. You can convert, or they'll chop your head off. And so I thought that was kind of them. And so he said, "I didn't know all that." I said, "Have you read the Quran?" He said, "No." I said, "You need to read it." I mean, and what Muhammad Ali said is that he did not want to go to war and fight against his brother Muslims in Vietnam. Well, at that time in Vietnam, there were no Muslims. They were either Buddhist or Catholics. And I work with a lot of Vietnamese nurses and a few doctors and nurse anesthetists. Fascinating. And of course, I've seen a lot of Vietnamese who were of the Vietnam era, as well as their kids, and heard the stories. And fascinating, really. One guy I saw in the office, he was high up in the military in South Vietnam, and so he was trying to figure out how to get out because he knew he'd go to prison. They imprisoned a lot of the South Vietnamese military and political leaders. And wow, you can't put the Democrats in charge of a war. They don't know what the hell to do. They left it up to Nixon, and he was like, "Well, let's just get out and uh, peace with honor." Yeah, right. So at any rate, uh, this guy, I said, "How'd you get out?" And he said, "Well, all my family said if you act crazy and just wander around, you can eventually wander over to Laos or Cambodia and work your way over to Thailand, and and you'll be able to get to the United States eventually." So he wandered around like a crazy man, and they never bothered him, and that's how he got out. That was fascinating. A lot of stories, really. The saddest are the Cambodians. Oh my God, what the Khmer Rouge did to that country and to those people. And I still have Cambodian patients who escaped. And one guy, oh, they killed about a third of the population of Cambodia. I mean, their own people. Just the killing fields. So that was a sad situation. And I saw some of the women back in the early '80s who had just gotten out and were um, here in the United States, and they came to the health department. I'd put in an afternoon a week at the health department and help out, and oh, they were just shell shocked. I mean, they saw their own kids and husbands beheaded and marched to death and worked to death, and oh, just really sad. Sad, sad, sad. We don't know how lucky we are, buddy boy. That's right, that's right, and the whole situation with California thinking they're better than the rest of us and that they do more for the country than we do, or uh, Texas or New York. Actually, it looked like on my little brief study that I did yesterday that New York and Florida now pay per capita more than California and Texas. Now, of course, California pays the most uh, in dollars because it's 40 million people and we're only what 22 million. So, but it's not that. I mean, 13% is not a whole lot. That's probably about what percentage of the population California comprises. So, no, that's baloney. They've just, where do they make this stuff up? This guy said he was a director. I said, "What do you direct?" He said, "I direct commercials." I said, "Okay, that's pretty cool." And I'm thinking he must be doing reasonably well, yet his mother-in-law is paying for the cruise. So I'm like, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture? But no, we parted friendly, and I wished him well, and I hoped he had a good time. And I have no animosity towards him. Uh, he just doesn't know. I mean, it's like this guy in the parking lot. He doesn't, yeah, misinformed, and he said, "Oh, Christians have killed more people than any other religion." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "The Ku Klux Klan." Well, he's black, and grew up in the South. That's going to be a big deal for him, and I understand that. But I mean, how many people do you think the Ku Klux Klan killed? Few thousand? Oh, it tops, and but it's so sensationalized, and it's kept alive by our press and by our memories. And he said, "Well, the Ku Klux Klan was in the White House." And I think he was probably referring to Trump. And he said somebody that was in the Ku Klux Klan made some statement about God and this and that. And I said, "Dude, Jesus said, don't kill." He didn't say don't kill except on Tuesdays when it's wet outside. He said, "You don't kill, you turn the other cheek." I said, "Anybody who doesn't do that is not practicing Christianity the way Jesus intended it." And I said, "Look, it's St. Paul's church, not Jesus's church." He said, "Oh, I'll agree with that." So, I mean, he was an intelligent guy, just misinformed. I said, "You need to read the Quran." I said, "You need to really study." I mean, in the Indian subcontinent, when the Muslims came in, they killed tens of millions of people, tens of millions. I mean, they just beheaded them. You don't convert, off with the head. So that's that. That was friendly, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, I just wanted to. Oh, by the way, they caught that suspect out in that did the quadruple murder in Idaho. Did you hear about that? His name is Brian Christopher Kohberger, Kohberger, and he is a graduate student in criminology. So I I kid you not, and so the everybody's saying, "Well, where's the weapon?" And what's the woman's name on Fox News that does the what do you call it, the crime shows? She's got the southern accent. I can't remember her name. She said, "Well, you'll never find that weapon. He was a criminology major. He knew what to do to get rid of it." I'm thinking, "Oh my god." So they caught him in Pennsylvania, and they matched the car that was spotted in the area with his car, and they did a DNA family analysis. Pretty cool. So the way you do that is yeah, so you get you get the DNA from the site, from the scene of the crime, and they isolated out. Of course, there was a lot of DNA they had to sort through. There were four victims. There was the perpetrator, and then of course it was a college rental house, so there was a lot of other DNA. So it took them weeks to sort it all out. You got all this stuff intermixed, and so they got his DNA, and he wasn't in the system. So then they started looking at uh, potential family members that might be in the system. And somebody's probably in the system. Somebody was in the military, or somebody was Secret Service or something, and so their DNA is on file. And so then they find the family member, and they start backtracking to which family member it might be. It's pretty neat. Oh, it's unbelievable. There's a company that will even give you a picture of the person you're looking for, and it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it'll have uh, the basic facial features, the color of eyes, the color of hair. Oh yeah, and they've caught a few people that way. Unbelievable, unbelievable. The technology is changing so fast, Ken. Just when you thought everything was calm and peaceful in the new year, dang. What's it say that we're all going to? Well, we'll see. I mean, the Antichrist, I don't know about that because he'd ha- well, I talk to God weekly. We have a meeting, and I haven't heard anything about the Antichrist. So, um, I think Jesus. No, I think Jesus is still tops, and that's okay. He's a good guy. Yeah, that's fine. Well, God bless him. Did he predict that there's an outbreak of measles in Ohio? I don't. I thought that was me. Was that him? Oh yeah, that's right. That was him. We get confused. Yeah. And a lot of those are so vague, though, you could apply them to any number of things, but oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, California's on fire half the time, so, it's it's like, "There's gonna be a fire." Well, yeah. There's gonna be a snowstorm in the Rockies. You can, and that's true, and all those 80 measles cases, they better come see me. I know how to cure the measles. Um, There is, but what's happening is with the pandemic and the anti-vax movement now, a lot of the mothers aren't getting their kids vaccinated, so that's gonna be a problem, and the main thing is polio, that's the one. Tetanus, it's rare, and we can probably, keep you alive through a tetanus, but polio, you'll end up, we don't have any real treatment for that, you'll end up paralyzed if you get a bad case. Any rate, yeah, get your kid in and vaccinate them for God's sakes, and don't be a weenie, or Doctor Bill will come and get you. Oh, They are beautiful, and I just sent out a few days ago to our winner from last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm a little late. Let's do it, and then we'll talk about Steven Tyler. Find the doctor. Find the doctor. Where so before we go to break, I wanna tell you, Steven Tyler's accuser, Julia Holcomb, speaks out on allegations of childhood sexual abuse. She claims that Tyler talked her mother into giving him custody of her when she was 16 so he could use her for sexual, pleasures, and so now she's suing him because the California laws have changed the statute of limitations. And I guess Steven's not looking too good. I think his band members sent him to rehab a few times, but, but, now I don't know if this is true or not, but, I mean, it's hard to defend against these, sexual allegations by women. I've had to actually move, to several different states over the years. And now I'm gonna move to a break so I can grab a cup of coffee, and we'll be right back. This is Doctor Bill and Ken, and we're doing a radio show today. Turn the feed on, Ken. And we're back. Happy New Year to everybody. And Ken, Happy New Year to you too, buddy boy. I was you talking about at midnight, I was passed out. I was I was dead, and I'm not sure whether it was sleep or wine, but probably a mixture of both. Any rate, we had a great evening. We went out to dinner, and I watched some of the Georgia game and fell asleep about halfway through. And I hear they pulled it out at the tail end. We talked about that earlier in the show. But here's the thing that's really surprising is the drop in housing prices across the country. From the high of last year, housing prices are down about 40%, which is the biggest drop since World War II. Um, no, I don't think Florida's been affected, at least not the southern Florida, not on our coast and not on the East Coast, Southeast and Southwest coast. We've held up well. In fact, one of my neighbors has put his my next door neighbor put his unit on sale, and he's asking more than any other unit has been sold for in our townhome complex. So apparently he's very confident, and I guess the realtors are too, that they're going to get what they want for this. Uh, well, yeah, and the inventory is down to a 3 month reserve, and it's probably lower than that in Florida. And we're getting more and more people every month, every day. People are moving to Florida. They're leaving New York, and they're leaving California, and they're leaving the high tax states, and they're coming down here. Uh, thank God for that. Well, it gives the police something to do. No, it's not. Well, but if you pass those people and you look at them, I mean, they're like 100 years old and they're looking through the steering wheel and not over it. That's true, but you're gonna have a hard time convincing most people of that, my son included. He'll go in the left lane just because I say, "You're not supposed to be in the left lane if you're not going fast." "I'm driving, pops, shut up." Yep. But at any rate, we're seeing a housing market, I guess what would you call it? A recession or a revision or re in reduction? Yeah, I mean, it's correction is good. I like correction. So there's a correction going on, and if we see an unemployment layoff in the new year, then housing market's really going to have a hard time. I guess the interest rates are just too high for most people. And they're like 6, 7% for a new mortgage now. And you got to get a smaller house. And of course, the prices went completely crazy with the inflation over the past couple of 3 years. Yeah. Can you hear me? I did. Am I back? Okay. I'm sorry. I must have touched the wrong button. Wait a minute. I don't have any buttons here. What? You did that. So no, no, I don't think so. No, they're already falling dramatically, and it's a buyer's market in a lot of the country. So yep, there's no yeah, and our tax per capita, our state taxes that includes sales tax and of course there's no personal income tax in the state, and property taxes and all that are really not that bad. I mean, they're not the lowest in the country. We're about in the middle when it comes to what we're paying in state level taxes. So that's not bad at all. And I tell people, come to Florida, and there's no estate tax. Oh yeah, and that was probably for what, a one room apartment. Oh, you were out in the suburbs too, weren't you? Well, I mean, if you live downtown, you'd probably pay 4 times that in taxes. Oh yeah. Well, we paid a lot in taxes when we lived inside the country club on the water. We were paying, I don't know, 10, 15,000 a year, but now we're down to a couple of grand a year now that we're in the townhouse. But it's not cheap, but still it's not as expensive as New York State or California property taxes. So that's good. That's good. No one won or no one called. Well, it's New Year's Day. What do you want? I think Joe Schott probably should have just given us the day off like he did last week, but no. Cocoa Beach, Florida, the east coast of Florida. That's true. So the Illinois Supreme Court, they halted this pretrial fairness act, which was going to allow some counties to have no cash bail for people that were arrested. And the Supreme Court of Illinois said, no, you can't do that. So they got to keep cash bail in place until they can sort it out or the legislature can fight it out or whatever they're going to do up there. So, yep, bravo. We'll see. I'm sure. I'm sure. But, they're probably thinking, dang, do I want these people in my neighborhood running around after they've just been locked up for murder and rape? There you go. And it should be. That's right. And people should have a say. Yeah, I believe that. It's a strange world when you have no cash uh, bail bond. I mean, it. First of all, how you going to get? What's the incentive for somebody to come back to court? How you going to get? There is none. And the and how you going to keep people in custody? I mean, you got to keep some of these people off the street. They're insane, Ken. They're insane. I mean, eh, people say, well, prison is punishment and the punishment's too severe. You know what? Prison is more than punishment. It's protection. It keeps you and me safe from these crazy people. Yeah, I mean that. And one of my friends said, "Well, you believe in capital punishment, but you don't believe in abortion." I said, "Listen, a kid in utero has not had the test of life. The guy that's on death row, he has been given the test of life, and guess what? He flunked. He flunked it. He did not make it. And no, not yet. Let them come out, and then let the little brats do what they're going to do. But for now, leave them alone. Leave them in the womb." And oh, did you hear Microsoft? Did you hear that on the news that was announced right before the show? That Microsoft, that they are giving time off and paid leave and travel money for getting an abortion. And then the president and the COO came out and said, "Well, wait a minute. We don't have enough people coming behind us to work. We're losing population." And that's true. It's worldwide. Well, in the developed world, worldwide, it's shrinking. Everything's going down. Oh yeah, and South Korea, and I think our birth rate's just about at. I think it's maybe we're replacing ourselves, but maybe not. I think the only reason that we're keeping the population up is we're importing people from south of the border, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Ken. I know we need worker bees, but I think we should have a more orderly way to do it. Yeah. Oh, by the way, it jumped this year. We got a big increase. Yeah. I don't think the federal. I think if the Democrats, well, both the Democrats and Republicans hadn't voted for that, they'd all be voted out by the gray-haired ones in the next election cycle. So they had to. Yes, we do. We get out and vote. Well, you could get Social Security now. You can get it at 62 and a half. I think you can start with it, but you can work and get Social Security. No, they don't. It's the exact same. It goes into your gross income. It's treated as current income, and well, so if let's say you make 60,000 working for the radio station, and you collect another 30,000 in Social Security, and then you've got your deductions and all that, and they're say that's 20,000, so that's 70,000 you're going to be taxed on. Doesn't matter where it came from. Doesn't matter if it's Social Security. Doesn't matter if it's work. Uh, it's current income, and it gets taxed at the same rate. So if you're in the 30% tax bracket, you're going to pay what, 21,000. I don't know. My recommendation to people who are asking me is take it now, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and you're going to get about the same amount of money if you live to 85 as whether you took it when you were 62 and a half or 70. I think you have to start taking it at 71, something like that, but you're going to get about the same amount of money because they say from 65 to 85, uh, here's what you're going to get, and so then they just divide it up differently if you're going to take it earlier or later. Have you quit smoking? Take it. Quick. That's what I'm saying. Only because I love you and I care. I've seen the test results. And, by the way, speaking of ill health, China's really struggling with this COVID, but apparently it's predominantly Omicron. But you know what they're saying now is they're saying, "Well, yeah, we got a lot of cases and we're a little overwhelmed, but it's not that bad, and most people aren't that sick." And, the main problem is gonna be out in the provinces and in the countryside where there's really not adequate health care, not what we would think of as healthcare in the West. So it's still a third world country in a lot of China, and they're struggling, and they're fighting back against CNN criticizing them for staying shut down for so long, uh, and now opening up and having this big surge of COVID. But to the Chinese, I don't know if they plan this, but to their benefit, it's if it's Omicron, there's a lot less morbidity and mortality with that. So maybe they inadvertently did the right thing. Well, plus the vaccine that they had, the Sinovax was an activated COVID virus, which was not very effective. So you'd have to get several doses just to get some immunity. But who knows? The price of gas is going up, baby. That's for sure. If they come out, because you couldn't believe the number of cars there are in Beijing. I mean, it is packed. The interstates are bumper to bumper for 100 miles around town. Oh, they're unbelievable. And so we're driving down, and the cab driver's taking us somewhere. We're on the interstate. Here's this little old guy in his Maoist era jacket with his communist star on it, sweeping the shoulder. He's sweeping the shoulder. Now I don't know if he was hired or if it was punishment or if he just was out there trying to do some good for the country, but looked like this little 70, 80-year-old guy was out there with his little broom. And they don't have a big welfare system. If you don't work, buddy, you're in deep doo doo. Yeah, you might get fed. Meanwhile, back here in Arizona, Kerry Lake sued to have the election overturned or recounted, and I guess the judge threw it out. And so Katie Hobbs, the governor now, wants her sanctioned, and so that she can be fined, and the Republican committee that backed her can be fined. And the court said, "No, you can't do that. I mean, she has a right to challenge it. You can't fine her just because She just because some judge said no, there she doesn't have a case and threw it out. But I did not know she was a news reporter. Yeah, she was so confident too. Oh my gosh. Well, probably, but I don't know. I mean, if Trump gets the domination, of course, I'll vote for him. But I think he might have a real challenge with DeSantis. I think the base is shifting a little bit, and they're tired of hearing about having lost the 2020 election and because of illegalities and chicanery and all that. And whether it's true or not, there comes a time when you got to just put that behind you and move on. And even for the Democrats, I mean, this January 6th thing, they've beaten this to death, and they're still trying to find something to to arrest or charge Trump with as a criminal. I guess his tax returns are now the next big thing. And no, well, what they're going to say is that he tilted the tax laws in his favor so that he could get the write-offs. Come on, that's not what that tax law did. But they're going to try that one. And what he did, which is not uncommon, what you do is you hold, if you have limited partnerships and you have losses, then you take those losses and you apply it to your income tax, and it's a deduction. But I mean, that's been in our tax code for decades, and there's nothing illegal about that. However, they're going to go after him. I guarantee you. Yeah, I mean, his real estate ventures, if they're not making money, then there's no income, then there's no taxes, and he owns. He's the general partner in hundreds of limited partnerships that have built properties all over the world. And there's no guarantee that the hotel in Moscow is going to do well, especially if a war starts. Oh, I'm sure most of them did. There was no travel, and everything was shut down. And most of his properties are resort type properties. No, no, but they'll beat him up on that. Although with the Republicans coming into the House now, a lot of these hearings are going to be sidetracked and waylaid. The January 6th, what they call it, insurrection. They figured that out, that there wasn't anything there, and I think two guys got arrested, and that was it, or convicted. I mean, they arrested a whole bunch of people. Well, they're going to have a hard time because the Department of Justice is going to be busy answering the Republicans about why they didn't take up this Hunter Biden case, and why they tried to influence the social media and direct them. I mean, look, once the government steps into the social media, it's no longer private. That's a First Amendment issue, my friend. That's a First Amendment issue. Well, I hope not, because it would be a real stain on our democracy. And I would say that Nixon resigning was about as close as I want to get to having some kind of censure against a president. And they were going to impeach him. Now, I don't know if that would have made it through the Senate, but the House was ready to impeach Nixon, and he did not want that stain on his record, so he resigned. But if Trump had done that, he would have had to resign several times. You know, Poor guy, they beat the crap out of him. I mean, every day, and I didn't blame him for being upset and losing his cool from time to time. I mean, yeah, he's narcissistic, and he's bravado and arrogant and all that, but hell, most of the presidents have to be narcissistic, or they wouldn't want to run. You have to think you're the best. Oh yeah, you have to. You got to have an ego. Meanwhile, The big auto companies in the United States, they're in a building boom. Did you know that? They're building new factories for, guess what? Electric cars and electric batteries. So this is the biggest building boom in decades for the auto industry. And my neighbor across the street, who, as you know, works for GM as a political liaison, he's at all these openings, and they opened a big, huge plant in Southern Ohio and one in Illinois, and they're going to town. But a lot of the manufacturing is shifting to the South, so we're getting some of those revenues down here. But I don't know. Yeah, the other thing is, how many employees is this really going to bring in? Because I'm sure a lot of this is automated now. You, yeah, they got robots that do most of the work. So about two-thirds of the new auto investment revealed over the past 2 years is going to sites in the U.S. South. Not bad, not bad. So they're trying to race to get their electric vehicles ramped up and running, and I guess that'll bring down the price. But my wife still wants me to buy a Tesla. I said, "That's twice the amount of money of any other electric vehicle, and what do you get?" And you don't get anything much more. I know, but we got stock in it. All right, okay. There you go. Oh, it's fallen down by 50% over the past year. Yeah, it'll come back, but it's gonna be a while. And, Twitter will come back, but it's gonna be a few years. And I think that's probably not a bad time to think about buying some of these stocks. They're getting pretty low, but you might wanna wait a few months and see how the first quarter goes of, 2023, and see what McCarthy does if he gets the speakership. He's got a small group of ultra conservatives that think he's too liberal. Did you know that? Mhm. And they could shift the balance. They could get the Democrats to vote with them against McCarthy. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Only in politics, my friend. Yep, it's a little bit sad. Yeah, it's like any marriage, though. I mean, you're not gonna get what you want unless you give, and even then, if you're married to a woman, that is, you're probably not gonna get it anyway. But yeah, I mean, all relationships are the same. I mean, they're just different levels of intimacy and business and power and money and interaction, but they're all the same. I mean, you got to compromise if you're in a marriage. You got to compromise if you're raising kids, and you got to compromise if you're in the job. If you're on the job, you got to do what you got to do. It's getting close to the end of the show, and I want to remind everybody I am Dr. Bill, your radio MD, and we have a practice in St. Pete. We also do telemedicine, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. We see Americans, Ken. We see Canadians. We see travelers and visitors. We see everything. Few smokers and a few dogs and cats have wandered in over the years, and 727-384-6411. That's 727-384-6411. I am Dr. Bill, your radio MD. Happy New Year, and I'll talk to you next week.